Several people with chronic conditions, hearing impairment, arthritis, adding those gives us 26.
And if we include men and women aged 13 and up.
You mean boys and girls?
Adolescence, it's a 20th century invention. Men and women.
Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise unto Yahweh Bashim Yahushai for this truth. This is just going to be a short lesson. I wanted to do a video response to a brother in the comment board who he asked me this actually 2 weeks ago. We had this discussion, but I haven't had the time to sit down and do a little response to it until today. So I wanted to quickly do a response because I think he just misunderstood what I was trying to say in the in my video here. All right, so I did a rant and an exposure on how I'll say that so the video don't get taken down. How he came up with this decree to increase the age of buying cigarettes from 18 to 21, and I went over the amount of negative effect that is going to have on society. All right, the scriptures say the thing which is crooked cannot be made straight. So if we already started off false, because we're not supposed to be taking these drugs anyway, but the point of the matter is you got many people who 18, 19, 20 years old, 15 years old, who are hooked on these cigarettes and stuff. They need them to help get through their day. So if you take these things away from these people, you're now opening them up to taking even worse drugs. Okay, so this man is just a damn devil. All right, he starts off with a bad situation, and then just out of his hate towards the real Israelites, because we're really the ones who are being focused on. Okay, we're really the ones who are being focused on. All right, but really, this man hates his own people as well. So he really don't care about no one. Okay, so they don't care about the issues and sufferings that they're going to cause of others, because this is what they want. Okay, they gain money off the suffering of others, as we all know. Okay, but this video isn't about that. I'm just simply giving a little rundown of what that video you see on the screen was about, which I recommend you give it a watch if you haven't already. But then I got a comment from a brother, which I know this brother. I've known him for a number of years. And we both agree that that you become an adult at sexual maturity. But I made a statement in the video that he disagreed with, which I don't understand how somebody could really disagree. It's just simple logic and fact. But nevertheless, I'm going to get into it, and we're going to give a proper understanding of what I was saying. Okay, so I made a statement in the video and said that you don't become a fully grown man until around 20 years old. Okay, I never said that you were not an adult until you're 20. I simply said that you're not a fully grown adult until 20 years old. That's what I said. I'm not going to pull up the clip because I just said it myself. Okay, and that's what I teach. And why is that? Because it's just a biological fact and a biblical fact. Okay, so this brother came on there and said, fully grown man when you're 20 years old? What? You're fully grown when complete with puberty around 15 to 16. That's what his response was. So then I responded and said, nope, a 15-year-old is not a grown man. He is a young man. As far as muscle development, now you may get a 15-year-old who looks like a grown man. Fair enough, but rare. That's why it says in Numbers chapter 1, count them from 20 years old and upwards, because under 20, most guys are not ready to fight a grown man. Come on, man, this is common sense. You have something called a young adult and a fully grown adult. Both are adults. However, one is more developed than the other. You should know this info by now. So what I'm simply saying, before I even get into the scriptures, is yes, you do become an adult at puberty, which is around 12, 13 years old. That's just a historical fact, biological fact, and biblical fact that is true. We both agree on that. However, you're what they call a young adult, okay? Meaning you're not a fully grown adult. You still have to go through development, okay? So a guy who's 15 years old, even though he is sexually mature, which means, you can reproduce and have offspring, which makes you an adult, it don't mean you are a fully grown adult, okay? As far as muscle development goes, you still have to develop for a number of more years until you can be considered to be a fully grown man. Now you're gonna have, as I explained to him down the road here in the comment section, that you're going to have exceptions, okay? You're going to have exceptions. There's some guys out there. I know a guy in real life who's 17 years old. The guy is 6'5" and has a fully grown beard on his face. The beard extends from his face about 3 inches. I mean, if you've seen this guy without knowing how old he is, this guy looks like in his late 30s, early 40s, man. And the guy's 17. So yeah, that guy, hey, he's a fully grown man. All right, because he developed quick. So there are exceptions. However, it's not common, okay? So yes, a person who is around 11 to 14 years old is an adult. However, they are a young adult, not a fully grown adult, okay? And no, at 15, 16, you're not a fully grown man yet. You are a man, but you are not a fully grown man. You still have the muscle development that you got to go through through growth. And even Esau tells you don't really stop growing until you're around, 21, 22. Well, that's all false, because really a person changes throughout their entire life. So it would be foolish to just say, well, once you hit this age, now you somehow stop growing and, development and all that, blah, blah, blah. That's all foolishness. That totally is preposterous, because every single individual will always become more mature and more irresponsible and even shrink when they get up in age over their lifespan. So to just say that one stops growing completely at a certain number is absolutely just preposterous and makes no logical sense. Okay? So I clearly just explained what I meant by my statement without even getting into the scriptures. Okay? So I mean, this is plain and simple to understand. Okay? Plain and simple. In fact, if I haven't made it simple enough, I'll even say it one more time. And I'll say it again. That yes, a person who is 11 to 14 is an adult. They're called a young adult. They're not a fully grown adult yet. Okay? You become a fully grown man around 20 years old. Now, some guys might hit that before 20. As I said, I know a guy who looked like a grown man at 17. There's guys who look like that at 15 or 16. You saw some of these, we all see these high school basketball players look like fully grown men at 15. So yeah, those guys are exceptions. Okay? They develop quick. Let's see. So I mean, it's plain and simple, man. Plain and simple. Okay? Then he says maybe tenor stages were different back then, but you are fully grown up by 15 or 16. Puberty is complete. Well, as I said, you got to understand this. It is true that puberty ends around 16 years old. That's true. However, that doesn't mean you're fully grown yet, because your muscle development is still going through development. Okay? You have, the scriptures mention mighty men of war. Okay? You have little guys out there, like, a lot of us who got, skinny arms, not real muscular, but then you got these other guys out there who are, big and bulky, spend their time at the gym. So those guys would be considered to be, fully grown men of war right there. But that doesn't mean that we're not men as well. Just because you don't have that, those big muscles and whatnot, that don't mean that you ain't a grown man. All right? But again, let's even get the scriptures, okay? Let's get the scriptures, because the scriptures explain this easy, okay? And as I said, I clearly just explained exactly what I am speaking about, okay? I made it plain and simple to understand, that this shouldn't be too difficult. Let's see. You go to the book of Numbers, chapter 1. There's actually two verses, actually 3 verses on this page that mention this, but I'm going to get to 2. Numbers chapter 1 and verse 3. From 20 years old and upward, all that are able to go forth to war in Israel, thou and Aaron shall number them by their armies. So, real quick, does this mean that if you're 19, you're not a man? No. Okay, it's simply because those guys who were under 20, a lot of them were not fully developed enough to be able to go and fight against fully grown men in the opposing army. Okay, for example, you wouldn't send a guy who's like 14 to go fight a guy that's 35, man. It's just, obviously he's going to get steamrolled, man. Just like today, you wouldn't throw a guy who's in, let's say, as we could say, who plays, who's a good, what's the word I'm looking for? Who's very good in sports, let's say maybe baseball, basketball. Yeah, you wouldn't throw one of those guys who's good at that sport in middle school. You wouldn't throw him up against a bunch of college players because they'll just get steamrolled. All right, it doesn't mean that he ain't a man. It's just he isn't fully developed enough on their level yet. Okay, I mean, it's come on. This is simple right here. This is simple. Okay, so this numbers isn't saying, well, if you're under 20, you ain't a man. That's not what it's talking about. And if that's the case, well, what about Numbers 8? You can't work in the priesthood till 25 years old. So could I now say that you ain't an adult till 25? No, that's called being simple. Okay? I mean, this is very simple to understand. Plain and simple. Okay? For example, you might have an exception, like King David. Okay? David, if you read the story of David and Goliath, we all know that. Well, if you read the story, Goliath didn't want to fight David because David was a youth. He was under 20. They say he was probably around maybe 15, 16 years old. But he was still a man, though. He was just a young man. Matter of fact, in the Hebrew, it uses the word stripling to describe David. Okay? The word stripling means a young man. Okay? So, here you go, man. I mean, come on. This is simple information. Plain and simple. Numbers chapter 1, verse 18. And they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and declared their pedigrees after their families, by the number of their fathers according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upwards, by their polls. Right, and why is that? Because those guys who were 20, they were the ones who had to go off to war. Okay. Let's see. So again, we understand that it's not, it doesn't mean, well, if you're under 20, you ain't an adult. That's not what it's talking about. And I'm going to prove it in this next verse I'm going to bring up. Okay, but again, you wouldn't want to send a guy who's 15 up against a fully grown man because he obviously, his muscle development isn't fully formed yet. Okay? So, again, they're still a man. It's just they're not fully, grown as in muscular development and growth as in height. You know what I'm saying? Because you grow to around the time you're 20, 21 years old. Okay, and that further proves the point. Numbers chapter 8 and verse 24. Now listen up. This is it that belongeth unto the Levites, from 20 and 5 years and upward. They shall go in to wait upon the service of the tabernacle, Slakia, of the congregation. Let's read that again. Numbers chapter 8 and verse 24. This is it that belongeth unto the Levites, from 20 and 5 years old and upward. They shall go in to wait upon the service of the tabernacle of the congregation. And from the age of 50 years they shall cease from waiting upon the service thereof, and shall serve no more. There you go, man. I mean, so are you really going to tell me those guys who were under 25, they were not men? No, of course they were men. But they still had to go through a certain level of training and development before they could take on that service, because that was a very complex and important service. If you mess up, you ass get put to death for that, man. Okay, so they had to have very experienced people. Okay, so I mean, I totally just cut this to pieces right here. Okay, totally just annihilated this disbelief. Okay, and I made it clear what I'm saying. So I'll go ahead and read my last comment and then we'll call it the video. Nope, incorrect. A person changes throughout their lives. A 30-year-old is different from a 60-year-old, and a 15-year-old is different from a 25-year-old. Exactly. The brain changes throughout the entire life. Okay, a 20-year-old is going to be different from a 25-year-old. A 40-year-old is going to be different from a 60-year-old. It's just how it works. It's just one has more experience than the other. It doesn't mean, whoa, they're both, one's more adult than the other. No, they're both adults. Just one has more experience. It's very simple, man. Come on. Let's see. It don't mean that they are not both adults. One is just more developed than the other. Yes, a 15-year-old is an adult. However, they are not fully grown adult. This is simple common info. A 15-year-old with no facial hair is still a man, but not a grown man, compared to a 35-year-old with a fully grown beard. This is common sense. However, you will have exceptions, like the guy I know, when he was 17 years old, he was a fully grown man. So yes, you will get some guys who are then the so-called teens who are fully grown. However, most are young adults, not fully grown, experienced adults. And you see, someone even gave me a like on that comment. All right. And notice, well, his one up there got two likes. But see, someone else agreed with what I was saying there. Okay, which, as I said, you gotta, scriptures say, understand first, then rebuke. So you have to understand what I meant by my statement before you come on there and, blabbermouth, as I call it, and try to, correct us. The scriptures say, understand first, then rebuke. So now you understand what I'm saying. And I mean, you guys really can't come back from this. Okay, I mean, you are right, but you're also wrong. Okay, as in, you really become a grown man around 20, but you do have exceptions. Some guys might become a fully grown man before 20. The same thing goes for a woman as well. Okay, a girl becomes a woman when she gets her first menstrual cycle, but she's still a young woman. She's not a fully mature, fully developed woman. Okay, for example, she might become sexually mature, which means she can be a mother, which makes her a woman, right? But yet for the next couple years, her breast might develop further than what they currently are. Okay, it's very simple indeed. Okay, this is just common sense here. Okay, but on the flip side, you got 15-year-olds, females who are fully grown women. Okay, so it depends. Okay, it depends on the the person. Okay, the person that is the center of the conversation, so to speak. Okay, because everyone's body is different. Okay, but anyway, I hope that was an edifying lesson. I hope I gave some good information on that subject. So with that being said, I'm going to say shalom.